Welcome to our fifth public event as part of the EUYO's Digital Summer Residency 2020. You're on Facebook Live or YouTube Live if you're watching this, and as ever, we're very pleased to take any questions or comments from you as we go. Don't wait till the end. If you've got anything you'd like to say or ask, please go do so. Today, my guest is Lukas Pairon. Welcome, Lukas. Lukas, I was looking through your biography, and I just have to say a few things about it as we begin. You studied philosophy at the university in Lugano in Switzerland. Then you obtained a master's specializing in the politics of education in Paris, and a doctorate in political and social sciences at Ghent University in Belgium. You worked as a researcher in adult education and literacy at UNESCO in Paris, and then moved to working in Belgium. And then, at the age of 27, you made a dramatic change, and you were appointed as artistic director of the contemporary music and dance programs of the Flanders Festival. After that, you created Walpurgis, a production house for contemporary chamber opera and music theatre, and later you helped to found the world-renowned contemporary music ensemble Ictus. And then in 2005, there seems to be another change. You found something called the Music Fund, which supports music schools in the Middle East, Africa, the Caribbean, and I gather also in Asia, doing such things as donating instruments and helping technicians to repair musical instruments and raise money for programs. In 2009, you founded Third Party, an educational program creating bridges between young people in Belgium and peace and human rights activists in the Middle East. From 2012 to 2016, you were researching the social impacts of music practice in social music projects designed for young people living in difficult surroundings, and during that period based yourself in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And since 2017, you've also been founding director of SIM, S-I-M-M, the international research platform focused on the possible social impacts of making music. It's no surprise to me that I read that in 2018, the King of Belgium awarded you the title of Commander in the Order of the Crown for work as a cultural activist. Then there is your work in Gaza, and so it goes on. I mean, it's an extraordinary story. So welcome, and it's great to have you here to talk a little bit about one of your projects. And I think for our young musicians, anybody who's thinking of moving into any of the area we call the social action music area, working for social and developmental change, it's a great model. But I wanted to ask you, having heard before I know you're going to make a presentation in a second, but before that, I wanted to ask you, was your life kind of mapped out, or did those extraordinary list of things just happen as they happened? Should young people be planning ahead, or is it a matter of being opportunistic?
Well, maybe opportunistic is not the right word. But, first of all, thank you so much, Marshall and the whole team, to have invited me. Very, very happy to discuss some of my work. But it wasn't mapped out, and fortunately it wasn't. I believe in the philosophy of enthusiasm and you should especially go for and do what you really can be enthusiastic about and interested in. These are the things that you risk to do best. So that means also that in your life you can make. It means that you can make big changes, and that's indeed what happened to me. And it was fortunately not mapped out, and many surprises. And I have the tendency to follow my nose to things that are interesting me. And voilà.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, it's a theme. It's a theme with many of our guests, people who've achieved a lot, who say, look, you know what the main thing is? Be yourself and follow your own passion, and then take opportunity as it comes. But yeah, that's very interesting.
It's not necessarily the easiest way, but I gave a course which was called The Philosophy of Enthusiasm to young artists, musicians, and visual artists, and bringing in people, artists who have for whom in their profession, in their career, following what was really interesting them and what was passion, where their passion lied, was what they did. But it's also good. It's also good to then hear what the problems can be that you can encounter. But
Yeah.
it's worthwhile doing it anyway.
Well, look, start by telling us a little bit about your work in the Congo, in Kinshasa, which I know is a pretty complicated
Yeah.
city and country and area to work in with musicians. Well, not
Yes.
just musicians, but just generally. So over to you.
Yes. Yes. So maybe Daniele, we can start at the same time with some of the slides that I prepared. Um, so after 20 years of well, maybe 30 years working in the music field, you gave an overview of what I did, and the last 20 years of my music career was as in charge of the contemporary music ensemble Ictus, and it was a wonderful adventure for me to be able to do this. But at a certain point, I needed a break, and I was really more and more feeling like the need to study. And so I announced the musicians of the ensemble, that a few years from then I would stop and take a study break. My PhD, my doctoral research was my excuse to seriously study, and I quickly found out what I wanted to do my PhD about, because with the humanitarian organization Music Fund, I was often told things like, Lukas, this is really wonderful what you do, because music is bringing peace to the Middle East, and doing all kinds of things to people that are wonderful, and a lot of exaggerated, let's say, over romanticized talk about music, and which I didn't necessarily understand and wanted to find out more about. And when I started to in 2012, when I started my PhD project, I went out what one does when to look for literature, for research that was already done in this field, and my astonishment was big to find very little. The last years, more and more studies on the possible role of music in Daniele, you can put on the next slide. More and more studies are really interesting. Research is being done in this field, and to find out what role music can exactly play in social work, in social music projects, how it works, what is needed, what are and so it's been developing. But when I started in 2012, there was I had really many difficulties finding serious research, and 2 years later, this one research on Systema came out, which is from Jeffrey Baker, but and the last years, much more came out, but when I started my PhD, I discussed with my university, which is the University of Ghent, maybe we should start like a research center on this topic, and we called it SIM because it's the abbreviation of simply social impacts of music making. And so we organized the first symposium in 2015, and then the years following, several other symposia were organized, international meetings of researchers, and also practitioners who are interested in serious research, like people from the Systema-like projects were present also, and continue to be present. And so I was very involved in creating this platform. It's a international research platform with our offices in Brussels, but now organizing seminars for young not so young scholars who are developing research. And a PhD program under the name of SIM was even started a few years ago at the Guildhall School in London. That we can discuss it later when there are questions about it. But maybe I would first want to shortly say something about my own work in Kinshasa, my own research work. And I went to Kinshasa a lot between 2012 and 2016. So over a period of about 4 years, I've been in Kinshasa for periods of 1 month, a total of 7 months, and followed two groups of young people who had become musicians, and in social projects. Social projects, meaning that the music projects were set up to help these young people find a different place in their society. And one group of that I followed closely were the so-called witch children in Kinshasa, which are in my study they're not children anymore, but young adults. But they were at a very young age, at between 6 and 10, 12, accused by their own family of being bewitched. And as you just said, Marshall, indeed, Kinshasa is a very difficult place to live, to make ends meet. Poverty is extreme, and the big majority of the population is living in very poor conditions. On top of that, those who should take care of the population, the politicians, police, army, these are the people you should stay away from, because so it's a very, very complicated situation. And so this, in part, I think, and I'm not the only one, makes one understand why people can imagine that their own child is bewitched, and that is the explanation of all the misery that befalls them. But so the children at this very young age, who are then accused of being witches, they flee, or some of them, many of them, flee their family, and they go live in the streets, which is also not the nicest place to be. And the project that I studied, the case study I studied, was a brass band. It's a project where young people kids from the streets and adolescents from the streets are welcomed to do all kinds of artistic and creative activities. And one of them was a brass band. Brass bands are very popular in Kinshasa, and so they became musicians in the brass band. They became they learned how to in this brass band. The second group, in a few minutes, I will show a little video, 1 minute video of the two groups, so that people who are listening now can imagine what can give some can have some idea. And the second group is a very different situation. It's a group of young men, especially not women, but men only, and they were members of violent gangs, attacking the population, stealing what they could steal, and then selling it. And they became in the area in Kinshasa where they live. Also lives a percussionist, fine percussionists playing traditional Congolese music, percussion music. And one day they went to see him and asked him whether they could also try. And this musician started to dream and imagine that if he could succeed to take these young men into his world, his passion for music, that it might take them away from their criminal activity, which he succeeded, which they succeeded, and they became a band, a percussion band, which you will hear in a few minutes. So maybe now, Daniele, we can go on to the next slide. Where are we at now? Yes, and this is a 1 minute video where you will hear Mando. Mando is one of these witch children, or was considered by his family a witch child, and he fled his family and he was living in the streets for several years, and then came across this project and became over a period of 6-7 years. He became he was a member of the brass band and became a musician. And you will hear him play a few notes of saxophone also at the end. But the subtitles are in French and in Dutch. I must excuse myself, but I will explain in 2 words. He's saying that his mother died, and then he was accused of witchcraft, and he fled the family, lived in the streets, and that it was all very difficult, and then became a musician. And now he is also a he's also a repair technician, because my other organization, Music Fund, taught him how to repair wind instruments. So let's listen to Mando and hear what he has to say.
Nous expliquer bien parce que maman nanga kufa natikala na papa pe abala ne maman mususu mava bala ngala maman mikufela déjà avant inana kufa inani mikufela ke de atinenga pa koko na biso ya côté ya maman na fanda kuna na difficulté otanga na pasi ko se débrouiller kuti na yimo mona mkona na ba sisa bo moi misane sonda kuna alors que ndako pango zalaki bien couler zalaki bien de la kendaki na balabala mekaki premier jour na pokaki te na soki na ndako mentala olala 2 fois 2 jours 3 jours na ndako ko kapenza te OK papa ndeko boye vie difficile tiens na je se tourner
on approche.
Voilà. So do you hear me again now? Yes.
Yes, we've got you there. That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Mando is really also, how do you say, a model. So he's really an example for many young people around him, and so he's now also working for Music Fund, teaching repair techniques to other people in Kinshasa, and even at the very other side of Congo, Bukavu, and soon also in Goma, which is like 2,000 kilometers away from there. So he's a beautiful success story for sure. And he is also, in the meantime, like most of these young musicians, have found their family back, and so in that sense, it's been for most of them a successful project in terms of the social impact of their them becoming musicians and getting the respect from their surroundings. And so now I will have a 1 minute video of the percussionists. You will hear them play, and so they just a few words. Well, you will see these men who are in their 20s and 30s, and it's hard to imagine that they were bandits attacking people when you see them play music. And they left indeed quite quickly. It's now a 10-year-old project, their ensemble. but they left very quickly their criminal activities after a year or so already. Even though it's very hard to come by, and I will say something more when I will tell you a bit later on the findings of my research. So they play Congolese music and traditional Congolese music, and it's a very big repertoire. I didn't know it's much, and it's a complex, very varied repertoire. Each province has its own musical repertoire, and they're very proud to be able to propose to the audiences that they play for that they can play music from very different parts of Congo. So let's listen to the 1 minute video. You look at the children who pass by, and you see that there's a next generation for preparation. Yes, so this was an extract of a film. Is a film on the band is called Betambonda, and the very fine Belgian artist Marie-Françoise Plissard, she made a 50-minute film on them, which you can find on internet, and you can find. You can look at my own website and then find a link to the film.
Actually,
so yes,
Lukas,
this one slide.
Lukas, can I just stop you for a second and say, for anybody watching, if people want to see a little bit more of what you're doing, maybe we should put the address down of your website and where some of this material can be found. I don't know, Daniele, maybe you can put that into the Facebook and YouTube pages of Lukas's site. Is that possible? Let's see if that goes in. Let us know when you've done that. Yes, sorry, Lukas, do carry on.
Yes. Okay. So now I don't think there's more needs to discuss SIM, the research platform. You can find information on the website, and this is my job now, or one of my projects. But my job is to direct this, to lead this research platform. But I would like to now, Daniele, can I have the next slide? So I would like to now take some time, shortly still, but take some time to tell you about, in short, about the main findings of my research in Kinshasa. Next slide, please. And there are four main I think four main findings in my research. So the first one being that if one wants to propose music as a playing a possible role in social work, you need teams who have two types of talents. Let's say, of course, to be able to teach music, you need to be a good musical pedagogue. You have to have that talent to be able to share your knowledge with people who need to learn the music, who want to learn the music. But as the population that you're teaching to is going through difficult times, or have been gone through difficult times, you also need to be you need to have the talent of being able to follow them at the psychological and social level. And so this has been my first important finding, that that you will also find back in many different experiences from practitioners and researchers. Yeah, next slide, please. The second really important main finding is that what we found in this research, and which is confirmed in others, is that the reason why my music is playing a possible role in helping people to reposition themselves in society is that it's simply very difficult to master an instrument and to master a repertoire. So it asks for a lot of work and a lot of concentration and a lot of focus. And these are things that these are qualities and activities and type of activities that can help one to also consider consider developing other and changing other things in life. And also the fact that when one is capable of mastering like these complex traditional Congolese percussion music, or when one is capable of mastering a trumpet or a trombone for the brass band, it's something that one can be really proud of, and it gives these young people the courage to also tackle other things which they want to be in control of in their lives. And so this was in my research and explained in my book, which just came out last month, one of the main findings: music as being something difficult and something about mastering. And so next slide, please. A third element which I didn't expect to come up at all, which is maybe in a way something specific for the Congolese situation, but in many other ways not so, is that when you want music to play to help people reposition themselves in society, have social impact on people, it's important that they have a say. So and there were a lot of complaints about this. The young people in my research in Congo, in Kinshasa, were often complaining about the fact that they were told to play music and somehow shut up, and that was a frustration which I shared also with the practitioners, with the initiators of these projects, and that it was something they could work on, and that was considered to be by these young musicians very important elements, is to be able to have shared ownership, to have a feeling of also owning the project, and meaning that they would be able to have a say in many different things in terms of the organization, but also in terms of maybe choices of music, about and staging of concerts, etc., etc. So this is also in many details explained in my work and in my book. And then, well, a fourth, Daniele, please, next slide. Thank you. The fourth element and finding has been the one which has has interested me, I could say, yes, the most in my research. It was the most difficult to get grasp of, to get hold of, and to describe, but the most interesting one. From the beginning, especially the former gangsters, they were complaining to me. They were saying, Lukas, really, we're now making music, and we have to spend 4 or 5 days a week rehearsing, and but we have not many concerts, and when we have a concert, we don't make a lot of money, and life is expensive in Kinshasa. And so complaining, and so my answer was being astonished. I told them, I'm really astonished. I don't. Why do you continue then doing this? Because nobody's in either of these projects. Nobody is obliging them whatsoever to spend so much time making music. And so I told them, well, if it's in terms of your material existence, if it causes problems to make ends meet, then why don't you stop and do something else and do like many other Congolese in Kinshasa? They make ends meet. At least they try to make ends meet by buying and selling stuff and by all kinds of activities. The answer would be then, no, Lukas, this is not possible. No, you don't understand. Music is too important for us. We can, if we would do some other activities, and they do, to make a little money here and there. It's just to allow us to continue our musical practice. And so this is was a very astonishing finding, because in our world, in my world, I'm from the north. I'm from a middle class. Lucky middle class kid. My children, they also they can do all kinds of activities, and somehow music can be one of the activities that one can do. Go to a music school or any other music projects and so. But in the very difficult, complex, and poverty stricken context of Kinshasa, it's amazing that music can take such an important place in the lives of these young men and women. And although I don't believe music saves people, souls, I think it's something exaggerated. I still took it as the title of my book. But then music saved them, they say. And indeed, in Kinshasa also, they said that music played a very important role in helping them to reconstruct something valuable in their lives, with their families, their children, with their family. So, and let me see. We're getting, yes, so... this is the title, of my book, and which just came out. And I'm lucky that Routledge decided to want to publish the results of my research. And I wrote the book for musicians, for most of you listening and looking, who are interested to develop such projects, and who also social workers, but also musicians who want to develop this type of work. And in my book, I explain what I think we can learn from Kinshasa. So that's it.
So thank you so much, Lukas. That's really interesting. We already have a couple of comments. I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask, and actually Nathaniel Tintas, has said music teachers are really the best. And I was very interested to ask you particularly, who are the music teachers, and how do you find them, and how do they work? Because that's so much the heart of many of these projects.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that when I was doing my PhD, I was too old to get a scholarship, so I had to find a job, and I found a job as a teacher in the university college in Ghent. I gave these seminars to young musicians and artists, and I found that many young artists are really interested in engaging themselves in society and in somehow instrumentalizing their art and offering this art in the context of social work. So I believe this is not just a Belgian phenomenon. That in many countries, many young artists, musicians, and other artists are interested to engage themselves in such projects. The thing is that what we miss is that not many conservatories are yet proposing also accompanied training. Some of them start, and so, because of course teaching to populations in social projects is something different than teaching in a conservatory or in a music academy. In the projects in Kinshasa, the musicians were the brass band. The brass band was led by musicians who they took the initiative. The musicians and in the I'm sorry, that was for the not for the brass band, for the percussion band. In the brass band, it's the social workers who found a conductor. Do you hear? I'm hearing myself twice.
All right.
I don't know whether you.
I hear you. Fortunately, I only hear you once. But carry on. It's such an interesting area, this, which is, I mean, the teachers. I'm really interested to what extent they're all local people, or are they people who you can bring in?
No. The projects are entirely local.
Yeah.
So they're people from Kinshasa, and also my organization, the Music Fund, never develops projects. We always come in service of projects which have been started locally, and so that's also how we discovered being often. I knew Kinshasa already thanks to Music Fund, because already since 2007 I was coming to Kinshasa. For Music Fund, but we never start music projects, social projects, or schools. But we help local projects to develop themselves thanks to donations of instruments and thanks to training of repair technicians.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any advice for young players who might be interested to go into this area? I mean, I've seen people go out and they start their own projects, and some others go where there are projects such as this happening. But I mean, if people, let's say people have an interest, they have a kind of motivation, they might likely say, well, where do I start?
Yes. Well, depending where you are, I mean, in Italy, for example, you have Sistema Italia, and it's become, in a short period of time, a big organization with many initiatives. So young musicians who are in Italy, I'm sure they can easily find opportunities to engage themselves in Sistema-like projects. This is the case. These projects are developing very rapidly in many countries. France, Belgium, also UK, the Scandinavian countries, Germany, and of course, yes, the Latin American countries. And so there are many such projects which exist and are developing rapidly. So they need musicians. Also, in terms of the experience, I think yes, it's something you learn by doing and by being. If you're lucky to be in a team with musicians who have experience in this field, then you can profit from their experience. Maybe one other advice could be, you see, I'm working with Music Fund in different countries, in Palestine, Israel, Congo, Mozambique, Morocco, and Haiti, and we know the music schools very well. And most of these music schools, they are looking for teachers. So, and I think it's meaningful because I know a number of examples of young musicians who did that, who went to teach not in too short a period. You should be able to take a few months out, because it takes always time to arrive somewhere in a very different world, different culture, different people. So it's meaningful to spend a few months teaching in a music school far away from your own situation and your own background and culture. But what I heard all of the young musicians that I know who did this tell me always the same thing, is that when they came back home to their own country, they felt that being confronted with this different world in this different country, that it motivated them and it helped them enormously to also do work in their own country with different populations, often coming from faraway countries. So that can be going for a few months out away from your own world, makes a lot of sense, I think, as an experience.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I mean, I was thinking back to my own experience where I discovered some of this social action work when I was in Venezuela in the late 1970s, and it was a completely foreign world to me. And okay, I was there 3 years, but I mean, even 3 months would give you an amazing experience that you can then bring back. You learn from this. I was always astounded by, again, you talked about being in the north, and how in the north we're so used to there being, even in communities where there are huge challenges, there are often resources. I remembered once doing a violin lesson with a student in Venezuela, and I said to him, your E string sounds a little bit not so good today. And he said, well, I don't have any E strings properly, and I can't get hold of any, but I found that if I use dental floss, I can make a sort of E string that will work. And I just felt so humbled that, that kind of approach to solving a problem, which I used to find in Latin America, and I'm sure you found in Africa. And I wonder whether we're kind of losing some of that type of skill in Europe to kind of make do with that. I don't know what you think about that. Maybe I'm being ridiculous, but
no, you're not. The technicians that Music Fund is sending to Kinshasa, they learn about a lot about how to solve problems with different means, and with missing material and missing certain tools and so on. You need to be.
It's a little.
But it's a very, very interesting life experience, for sure.
Yes, I mean, and it reminds me almost of the coronavirus period we're living through, in which the normal rules don't work. So you have to improvise often. Yeah. Look, we have a question coming in here from John Moore, who's asking, is there anything happening in Thailand that you know of?
No, I don't know of. No, Thailand is not.
No.
No, I don't. But
I have a feeling there may be, and actually, I know the person to ask. There's a man called Eric Booth, who's written a book, with Trisha, and they seem to know everything about what projects there are around the world. And I think, John, if you were to go onto a site called the World Ensemble, and if you can't see it there, if it's not listed, then Eric Booth's email is there, and if you email him, I'm sure he would have an answer. I think there is actually something I'd had heard, but I might be wrong. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. And actually, for those people in Europe, it's quite interesting. I mean, you mentioned, Lucas, a few things happening in Europe. I think if you look on the Systema Europe website, you'll see there are centres in over 100 places throughout Europe doing this work. I mean, it's all individual projects, and it varies a lot. But that's right. So I mean, this is a very interesting area. What are you moving to next, Lucas? I mean, you've done your this huge piece of work in Kinshasa. Do you keep going back there? Is your Gaza? You should tell us about your Gaza project a bit. Do you carry on going back there? I seem to remember an extraordinary project you were doing with that grand piano. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, Kinshasa. I want to go back to so 5 years down the road, which should be next year, down the road of the end of my field work for my research. I want to go back to Kinshasa to go see all the participants of my research and see where they are in their lives, and also how they see the role that music has played until then in their lives, but yeah, I hope to be able to go back next year, if not the year after that, to do some kind of, not really a postdoc, but to do some short research of a month or two, and this is something which is not often done. To go back to the same population which has been studied, and so I really want to do that.
Yeah.
With Music Fund, yes, I'm not going to all these places where we work, but Gaza is indeed my second home. We work. I'm fortunate to be able, with the teams of Music Fund, to go into Gaza, which is very complicated. But we work with the UN, in Gaza. And so the UN is negotiating the permits with the Israeli government to allow us to go work with the music school. Music is not very popular, contrary to the West Bank, where there's a lot of the local government, Hamas. Doesn't seem to be very eager on the development of music, but yeah. It's changing also, and so the last 3 years, 2 new music schools started in Gaza, and so they need instruments, but they especially need people who can take care of the maintenance of the instruments, and so that's where Music Fund comes in, and so it's a place where I go a lot. This year, less because of the sanitary situation, and we don't want COVID to arrive in Gaza, please. That would be really complicated.
Yeah.
And there's been some cases, but apparently it's very much under control for the moment. But I hope from next year on to be able to go back. The last 7-8 years, I've been 1 to 1.5 months per year in Gaza. So it's
wow.
A place with many friends and where we are very active with Music Fund. And now even with SIM, with the research platform, I'm preparing. I was supposed to give a university a course at the university in March, but I didn't get further than Tel Aviv because of the pandemic which broke out, and then everything closed down, so I had to come back home. But so I'm planning to give a course on SIM, on the social impacts of music making, and also preparing a research done by Gazan Palestinian scholars on the outreach program of the music school, the Edward Said Music Conservatory in Gaza. They have the last years with money from Norway been able to propose to develop a very, very interesting and big outreach program in different parts of the Gaza Strip, and so I hope to be able to succeed the coming year or two to help local scholars to do research on this.
That's great. Tell us, I mean, Lukas, if anybody is sitting watching this thinking, I wonder if I should try some of this thing. I mean, I don't mean in terms of the mechanics of what you do, but what's, you kind of the humanity of it. What's your advice to people that might be embarking on this kind of journey?
As practitioners, musicians, teaching.
As practitioners, as musicians, yeah.
Yes. Well, as I said a bit earlier on, try to find existing projects in your own area, and try to find the musicians, the practitioners who are experienced, and so that they can accompany you, and you will find them. They're all over, and then maybe as a possible extra. Maybe leave your world and take a few months off and go teach music in a very different world than yours, in the Middle East, in Africa, or somewhere else. Yeah, and people can write me. I can try to give them advice and to put them in touch with people I know, or. A lot of my work is network work, so I can't necessarily give the answers myself, but I may know people who can.
You're an enabler. Yeah, that's great. So if anybody's interested, they can find through your website. I think we put the details there earlier. They could easily come to you on that. Well, I don't know if there are any other comments, but it's really fascinating to hear from you, and I think the kind of the breadth, width, depth of the kind of work you've done is an inspiration, and we need more people of that sort. So, Lukas, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of what you're doing with all of us, and we look forward to hearing what happens next with you. Thank you very much, Lukas. Very kind. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. And for all the listeners who want to know, I mean, we've got 2 more public sessions coming during the current residency. Tomorrow at 6:00 CET, we have a hangout session where we will be introducing the European Music Gallery Festival, which begins tomorrow in Denmark. First of over 30 events over the next month of actual physical live playing. And then on Thursday, we finish our public work as part of this residency at 3:00 CET with a conversation with conductor Marin Alsop on the future of orchestras. And until then, it's great to have seen you, Lukas. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you.
Bye.